Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Whether or Not. I'm your host, Luke Snyder, and as you can tell, things look a little bit different here in the studio. As of right now, the Whether or Not cast is out on spring break for the Penn State University spring semester, but we still wanted to put on a great show for you this week. So we have a couple features lined up, but up first, we have Caitlyn Bell with her feature on a couple science experiments that you can perform at home.
Well, meteorological spring is finally upon us, spanning from March through May, and marks a critical seasonal shift in our weather patterns. And this time of year, many may start to think about the growing season after the last frost, of course, and how these plant processes really take place. So, we will be doing an experiment on capillary action and how the soil retains and distributes moisture necessary for plant growth and root development. First, we need to know what capillary action actually is. So, it is defined as the movement of water within the spaces of a porous material due to the forces of adhesion, cohesion, and surface tension. And plants and trees couldn't thrive without capillary action. It helps bring water up into the roots all the way up to the branches and the leaves. Capillary action occurs when the adhesion to the walls is stronger than the cohesive forces between the liquid molecules. So, the height to which capillary action will take water in a uniform circular tube is limited by surface tension and, of course, gravity. So, this increases in smaller spaces, but water level is lower in wider spaces where surface tension is reduced, such as in a thin container or a wide container. And water is attracted to the sides of the container. The smaller the space, the greater the attraction. So, let's actually see this in action. Our first step to our experiment is take 3 clear plastic cups and put them in a row. The 2 on the end are filled almost to the top with water, while the one in the middle stays completely dry and empty. I also have 2 different colored food colorings, one blue and one red. Now, the blue one will go on the left and the red one on the right. I will take the blue food coloring first and deposit 10 drops of it into the water, and we will wait for the food coloring to become uniform throughout the water. Now, we want to do the same thing with our red food coloring to the right cup, like we did on the left side with the blue food coloring. We want to put in 10 drops into the water and wait for it to become uniform throughout. Now, I am doing 10 drops, however, you can do more or less as long as you have a nice, strong color in both cups. For this next part of the experiment, you are going to need 2 sheets of paper towels. You want to fold the first one in half from the bottom to the top, and then take that and fold it in half again until you have a small rectangle. Now you want to unfold that small rectangle and take one side, does not matter, left or right, and fold that piece in half. Now you also will need scissors for this. You will get a T-like or L shape. You want to cut off that small piece that you just folded on the one half of that side. You do not need that piece anymore, and you end up with this smaller L or T shape that folds somewhat like a door opening and closing, or a gate. Like I said before, you will end up with 2 of these pieces. Ideally, they want to fold in the same place and be the same length. Now we want to take 1 paper towel and put the long side into the water and the shorter side into the middle cup that is empty. You want to do the same thing with the red cup, and over time we can see that the water molecules from both cups begin to climb the paper towel and will be deposited into the empty middle cup. So now we can see that the blue cup and the red cup have allowed for the water molecules in each of them to travel up the paper towel respectively and start to deposit the water into the middle empty cup. And from this transition, after about 40 minutes of this experiment, you can see that both the red cup and the blue cup have lost some of their water due to the cohesion and adhesion mentioned earlier, as the water continues to travel and soak up on the paper towel. Finally, after about 12 hours, we can see that all 3 cups are just about level, and depending on plant type and conditions, capillary action in plants can be observed within a few hours. However, the exact time can vary based on factors like stem size and water availability, and of course, soil texture and functionality play a huge role. Properties such as water holding capacity could be high in clay, but low in sand. For Whether or Not, I'm student meteorologist Caitlyn Bell.
Here I am at Seven Springs Mountain Resort, where many skiers and snowboarders are enjoying over 96 inches of snow that has fallen this season. But as we head later into spring, the snow conditions start to become more variable because of several factors. And those factors could determine whether a rider enjoys a powdery slope or faces the challenges of an icy piste. Many different types of snow can be found all across the mountain, and it can range from pure powder to straight ice. Some of the types of snow that we see across the mountain are called packed powder, which is powder that's been packed down by skiers and snowboarders, but not too much that the snow still stays soft. Then we have what's called crud. It's snow that's unevenly spread across all parts of the slope, and there's not really an even surface beneath it. Then we have what's called hard pack, which is packed powder, but it's been packed on so many times by skiers and snowboarders that the base of the snow turns hard and the snow becomes very firm and a little bit harder to ski on. And then we have what's called ice. Hardpack and ice are very similar, except the difference here is that ice is translucent and you cannot steer in it because it is essentially no friction on the icy surface. As we get later into the day, the snow usually becomes softer because the temperature begins to increase and the sun angle becomes higher in the sky, meaning there's more sun and stronger sun that's hitting the surface. As the day progresses, the temperature begins to increase and begins to melt some of the snow that's on the surface, and the sun angle helps along with that. In the early morning hours, you'll hear more of a scratching sound, while in the afternoon hours, you'll hear more of a buttery, very quiet, soft, smooth sound. As we head later into winter and into early spring, the sun angle starts to become higher in the sky and becomes more important in affecting the snow condition than the surface temperature. Although the surface temperature may be below freezing at times, a very high sun angle will still melt the snow and will create very soft conditions in the afternoon as the day progresses. On a more northerly facing slope that's especially steep, the snow here tends to feel a little bit softer, and that's because the sun angle isn't as steep as it would be on a south facing slope. In the northern hemisphere, the sun tends to shade a little bit further south, and so when the light comes in, it comes in indirectly, not hitting the snow as hard. If it was in the southern hemisphere, the sun would be more towards the north in the winter, and so then it would be hitting the snow more at a direct angle, and the snow will be feeling harder because it goes under a refreeze and a freezing cycle. With the amount of snow that Seven Springs has received this season, skiing and snowboarding has been impeccable since the beginning of the year. But with the sun becoming higher in the sky and the temperature fluctuating more, a powdery experience like this can turn into an icy one in just a blink of an eye. For Whether or Not, I'm student meteorologist Pham.
Welcome to the 6th floor of Walker Building and our temporary Whether or Not studio. I'm Filippo Formica, and right now you're standing in our temporary control room where we've moved all of our technology from our previous studio onto this rack right here that controls our graphics system as well as all the computers that you see in front of me right here that go into producing our show. Our director sits right here and cues up different frames that you see on air. So as we step out into the studio, you can see all the temporary setup that goes into it. A lot of extra lighting that has been put into our weather center here at Penn State University Park, where typically people sit down, do their schoolwork, collaborate with other students, catch up with friends, and chat amongst themselves, even brew a cup of coffee over on the far side of the Weather Center. But as of late, we've been using this as our temporary studio. Here's the monitor that you've been seeing on air over the last few weeks, and behind us is the camera that was downstairs, but is now used for shooting our videos and our shows from here on forward. This camera has a little lens in it that allows us to see what we're talking about on air. So that's our temporary studio, but why have we been using this setup here? Well, that's because our actual studios have been undergoing renovations. So since the beginning of January, we've been undergoing the preparations for these renovations, and at the end of January, we had our last shows and shifts at Penn State before the studios finally went under renovation. So we're going to take a trip down to the 5th floor of Walker Building here on Penn State's campus, and we are going to see all of the progress that has been made. I'll put over this clip here while we're in the echoey stairwell. All of the pictures that have been taken along the way and the progress that has been made on these studios as we've gone through the last couple of months of extensive renovations. So now we're in the hallway of the 5th floor of Walker. A lot of the furniture that we use within the studio is out here in the hallway, and that is going to be getting put back into the studio once the renovations are all set and done. So here is our former control room. A lot of technology was moved out of this room, and we have some paint going in around some of the wires that have been here. Everything seen in white is actually going to be replaced with soundproof panels. So when this control room is fully functional yet again, it will be 100% soundproof. Now stepping into our studio, we have brand new carpeting along the floors, plenty of black paint, and again, anywhere with white or non-black paint, we're going to be seeing some soundproof panels put up so that the audio quality that you experience at home is the best it could possibly be. Our forecaster and host will be standing on this side of the wall, which is actually a change of pace from where we used to shoot our intro and outro. And eventually when the forecaster begins their forecast, they'll be right over here and staring into a camera that is going to be hanging down from the ceiling alongside all of our brand new light fixtures that are going to illuminate our host and forecaster for the best possible video quality when you are at home watching the show. Now, another studio that we have here at Penn State that we don't use for Weather or Not is our Studio B that has also been undergoing some upgrades. A brand new paint job. This studio won't be getting soundproof panels as of right now, but will be getting brand new ceiling tiles as well as a brand new light fixtures that are these LED lights that are heading their way up into the ceiling. So these studios went down in late January, and we're hoping to have them back and ready to go for the show by the end of this semester here at Penn State.
Well, we haven't seen a bit of chill like that sub-zero here in State College for quite some time, and I don't think that we're going to be seeing anything that cold in the upcoming weeks for the rest of March here in State College. But thank you all so much for tuning in for this week's episode of Whether or Not. We'll be back again next week for our normal and regularly scheduled program. Thank you all so much again for watching.